Welcome and thanks for joining me on the Gut Health 3.0, taking care of our God-given bodies from the inside out. I'm Dr. Monty Kline, natural healing and weight loss practitioner, and I will be your host. And today I'm being joined by a very interesting guy, Matt Gesper, author, motivational speaker, and entrepreneur. Matt is the founder of Happy Living, a health and wellness blog, and an independent book publishing company. He's the author of Turning Inspiration into Action and The Belief Roadmap. Now, Matt believes that a better self is always possible today and every day. He dedicates his professional time and resources to developing and sharing best practices for health and happiness. Now, Happy Living is on a mission to improve the health and well-being of the world one person at a time. And their team of Happy Living experts is searching for, experimenting with, and sharing ideas, experiences, and products for people wanting to improve their health and well-being. Previously, Matt spent 30 years in a wide range of business and executive positions. I won't take the time to detail. Matt graduated from the University of California, Davis, where he studied economics, played football, and pole vaulted for the track team. After college, he pursued his childhood dream of becoming a professional athlete, only to come up short with the unique distinction of being cut from 3 different football teams in 3 different leagues, Canadian, USFL, and NFL. Well, I think their loss was our gain. In his leisure, Matt loves to hike, paddle, laugh, read, think, and spend time with his wife and 4 children at their home on Lake Norman in North Carolina. Matt, welcome to the Gut Health 3.0 Summit.
Thank you, Monty. And I've just decided I want to take you on the road with me. Thanks for that very kind introduction.
We'll see you in the future, huh? Okay. Well, great. Well, let me begin by asking our summit's theme question. What does taking care of our God-given bodies from the inside out mean to you?
Well, it's a good question, and it's one that I came to probably late in life. Really started focusing more on health when I launched my company, Happy Living. And I think what it means is just taking care of the important things in life, things that are meaningful to you, whether that's finance or relationships or health, so that you can continue to lead the life that you want to lead. And for me, I want to live a nice long life. I have a goal to be 103 and die on June 4th, 6/4, 64. I'm very much into symmetry. And if I'm going to get from here to there, I need to take care of my health.
Oh, wow. Well, tell us more about your story, your current focus on natural healing. I know, from your introduction, you came from a business background for decades. So, how did all of that lead to where you are now in the natural healing profession?
Yeah, I could have never guessed it would happen. I really spent the first half of my life building things that help companies work better. And really, if I'm being honest, focused on my own self-interest. It was really an inward focus, career building, very hardcore type A personality. And I was lucky enough to have some success at that. About 4 years ago, I was down in the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and I was in a transition period with my company. I was moving out of operations and into the chairmanship. And so I started thinking about, what do I got to do next? I had about a 1-year program I was going to basically finish up, and then I was really going to be in kind of an oversight capacity. And so I needed something to do. And as I started thinking about what I wanted to do next, we decided to sell the company. And so it kind of sped things up at the same time. And I was at the bottom of the canyon, thinking about what I want to do, thinking about a conversation I had with a friend of mine who was a high school friend of mine. So same age, we were both in our early 50s. And he must have said about a dozen times during a dinner with me and my son that, Kyle, your dad and my glory days are behind us. And I thought, man, I'm just getting started. And so what I came up with at the bottom of the canyon was this concept for happy living. All I really knew about it was I wanted to do something that was giving back and not so self-focused, but giving-focused. And I wanted to do something that was consistent with what I'd done in business, which was building best practices from the collective intelligence of a community and usually put those processes into software. And I wanted to do that for best practices for living a happy life. And so that was the kernel that got us started about 4 years ago, I'd say.
Well, that's great. It's interesting to see how your previous experience, all of those things and all those principles can apply to the health area, and how we take care of our bodies and just our overall, well-being. So that's great. Well, you may have answered this a little bit already, but what is happy living?
Yeah, it's an evolving piece of real estate that's up there on the internet. It's probably one of the, Monty, it's the most fun thing I've ever been involved in, because we're just kind of creating it as it goes. And our focus was on giving back. Our focus was on not telling people, not giving advice, but rather sharing what we're learning. And I wanted to, one of the things the business folks would tell you if you're going to start a new company, you have to have a nice small niche, right? And so you're going to provide service to dentists who want to live in the Caribbean, so a really nice tight niche. And I wanted to do happy living, which was to improve the health and well-being of the world. Kind of a rather gigantuous.
Kind of a broad concept.
Kind of broad. And I tried to come up with a niche and I couldn't. So what I decided to do was come up with a niche in terms of what we would write about, what we would research on. And that's our 7 foundations of health. That basically is what structures the company. And it's in a pyramid, 4 blocks, 2 blocks, and 1. And the 4 blocks are the 4 fitnesses: physical fitness, mental fitness, spiritual fitness, and financial fitness. That part separates us from a lot of the health and wellness companies. The 2 middle blocks are love and adventure, and the tippy top is significance. Doing something you love and something that provides value to others is how I define significance.
Okay.
So that became the structure for happy living. We began by writing and doing blog posts, and we now have over 400 blog posts. Along the way, we introduced podcasts, and one of our podcasts is really, really cool. I've got a friend of mine who I played football with in college who became a trained actor and playwright. And I'll give him a post to read that I've already written. So we've published a post to Happy Living. I'll give it to Scott, who's our blog tester, and he'll read it and interpret what it means to him. And then he does what we call blog theater. He gives a 10-minute solo performance, theatrical, audio only, about what gut health means to him, or what, turning inspiration into action, what this blog post means to him. It's really good. He's very insightful, and it gives us a way to repurpose our content in an interesting new way.
That's a really interesting communication method. I can see how that would be very, very effective.
Yeah, it's fun. So we're doing blogs. We write every week. We do podcasts. We do interviews and talks. We're starting to get into videos a little bit more. And the message is just for us, is to say, look, define in your life what is important to you. These are the things that are important to us, and get after it every day. Just get after it every day. We're going to be doing the journey with you, and we're going to share along the way.
Okay, well, great. Well, just as a general question, how would you explain gut health and its importance?
That's a great question, and I know even from medical science, which I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV. It's a new frontier, right? And I think we're learning a lot every day, and I think it's going to be really a big turning point for how we might start to get a grasp on how to fix some of these diseases. But what I've learned is that most of the sickness that we see in life and that we feel comes from inflammation at the cellular level. And that inflammation is what makes us sick. Right. And that inflammation is caused by all kinds of things. But in terms of food and our diet, wheat and sugar and bad fats and toxins that are in, and additives that are in the chemicals. But I've also learned it's more than that. It's, for example, in my previous life, when I was totally self-absorbed, and I was doing my exercise, if something in my life disrupted my schedule, I would get really upset about it. And I wasn't a mean, angry kind of person, but I would physically get upset that my daughter got sick and I had to take her to the doctor's office or something like that, right? Horrible guy. And that upsetness also causes inflammation, right?
Yeah.
And soap we put on our skin can cause inflammation. So to me, gut health, in the big term, gut health is focused on getting the unnatural inflammation out of our body, the chronic inflammation out of our body. And that's kind of my focus in terms of nutrition, but it's bigger than that, as I've learned, is anything that causes me stress, chronic stress, I need to pay attention to and try to eliminate from my life.
Yeah, because all of these areas are going to affect inflammation. So I can see your point there. Let's get into the details of your 6-point philosophy on nutrition. Now, what are those 6 points?
So they're pretty simple and pretty basic. I wrote this philosophy about October 2014, so over 3 years ago. And the 6 principles are: number 1, just eat real food. And really, when I started on this journey and I heard the term processed food, I really didn't know what it meant. What is processed food? Because it was just all the food I've ever eaten in my life. I couldn't understand what that was. But of course,
processed it. So
of course, real food is real food, and food with really short or single ingredients. And so that's what I really try to do with number 1. I like one of my book mentors, Dr. David Perlmutter, in his book, Grain Brain. He talked about a quote. He says, if the food goes bad, it's good for you. If it stays good, it's bad for you.
Right.
So I try to eat food that goes bad.
Right.
And then I also try not to get upset about having to throw it away if it goes bad before I eat it, because that would also cause me inflammation.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of a quote by I think his name is Franklin Bicknell, who was the head of the organization that eventually became the FDA, back in the early part of the 20th century. And he made a statement about only eat food that, rots or spoils or what have you, but eat it before it does.
Yes, right.
Similar quote there.
Yeah, exactly.
But so not to interrupt you, go ahead.
Nope, that's fine. So the second point is to eat a diet based on healthy fats and lower carbs, really influenced strongly by 2 books. One I mentioned, The Grain Brain, an awesome book, and the other, Wheat Belly, by Dr. William Davis.
Yes.
So I read those 2 books actually back before I started Happy Living, and I started on this nutritional read journey, just before I made the crossover. And then lo and behold, that probably helped to really influence what I was doing if I think back about it. Yeah. So that's number 2, healthy fats, low carb. Number 3 is to use nutritional supplements. Because, even if you're eating real food, they say a lot of the soils are depleted and, it's just not as good as it used to be. So anyways, I've bought into that. I like a company called Isogenics. It's actually down there in Phoenix. I think you're in Tucson. So they're just up the road from you. Yeah. And the things I was focusing on when I was hunting for these guys, and this was about 10 years ago or 5 years ago, but coenzyme Q10 to get that into my body, resveratrol, omega-3 fatty acids. They do some stuff, brain boosting products. It's supposed to be really good stuff for your health or for your brain. And I happen to believe that this whole war on cholesterol, especially HDL, good cholesterol, has really hurt our brains. That's my belief, and I think this helps. I also supplement with melatonin, and these guys also have, something called telomere support. So this is my multivitamin I take, and telomeres are these little things on the end of your chromosomes. I think you can correct me if I don't say it right, but that wear out based on the aging process.
Right.
And so this supplement is supposed to help slow down that process and keep your cells nice, your chromosomes nice and healthy.
This is a really key area that I think is just developing in terms of supplementation. There are very few companies that are dealing with this at all, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the future.
Yeah, excellent. So anyways, nutritional supplements. The fourth point, I also started back, well, it's coming up on anniversary of 100 months. I've been doing a monthly cleanse and a 36-hour fast using a cleansing mixture from this company, Isogenics. So on cleansing day, I try to reduce my schedule just a little bit, try to take life down a notch, try to do a little bit more spirituality stuff, right, and then let my digestive system just take a break. And so I've been doing that. Tomorrow is cleanse day number 97. And so in 3 months, I'll get to the 100-month mark. That'll be exciting.
Great.
And then the fifth one is to measure and adjust. And so, so I'm experimenting with telomere health. Well, how do I know if it's doing anything? I need to figure out how to measure it. Right. So I started a series of measurements. I measure my body weight. I get on a scale every day. They say you're not supposed to, but I do it every day, but I record it once a month. Right. And just to make sure things are smooth and where I want them to be. I measure my cholesterol. I do that twice a year. And I measure my resting heart rate just to see that indication of just overall health. And I measure with blood work, not only my cholesterol, but anabolic hormones. It might not be surprising to you as a doctor, but after about 10 years of a high level stress situation in my business, it looks like my anabolic hormones just got blasted. So I'm trying to build those back, and measurements are part of that. Yeah. I measure my liver health. I measure inflammation, the inflammation marker, and blood pressure, and just different things, and try to make sure that my overall health is on a trajectory that I feel good with. And where there's anything that looks out of whack, then I just try to pay attention to it, and then do some sort of interruption in what I'm doing to see if I can make a correction. Okay. So measure and adjust. And then the last one, it's one of my favorites. It's really simple, and it's a Japanese term called Harahachibu. It's Harahachi, Hachi-bu, B-U. And it means eat until you're 80% full. And if you eat till you're 80% full, it'll make a big change in your diet. Yes. So those are my 6 points.
Those are your 6. Those are great points. Those are great points. Japanese terms, there's another Japanese term you write about called Kaizen. What is that, and how can that contribute to gut health?
Yeah, great question. Kaizen is a term that I learned decades and decades ago. I think I can almost remember it. I was in a business meeting. I was in a lobby waiting to go into the meeting and thumbing through a magazine. And it was back when the Japanese automakers were just putting a big hurt on Detroit. Right. And what Japanese manufacturers had done was this process called Kaizen. And basically it means the definition is that small incremental improvements will add up over time to yield big results. And, I was a 20-something-year-old business guy trying to learn things. I said, man, that's great. I can do that. Small incremental improvements over and over and over again. And so that's really a lot of how we try to do things at Happy Living. And all of our foundations of health is just every day, if I can get up and I can do one thing, that better than I did yesterday, that comes back to that idea of I really believe that we can get better every day at something for the rest of our life. And that is really uplifting spiritually. Yes. It makes you happy and it just feels good. But it also gives you the chance to relax a little bit because, my diet's not perfect, but that's no problem. I can do something tomorrow that will help it. And
Right.
just as an indication of that, some of the things that's changed in my diet since I posted my philosophy back in 2014 is I was influenced by a book called Fat Chance, and how sugar is really bad substance for us to be eating, especially added sugar, not the sugar in fruits so much and the natural sugar that's in the food, real food that we eat, but the added sugar. And so I basically completely eliminated any added sugar from my diet. I've also, related directly, I think, to gut health, I've added sauerkraut. So I forget the doctor's name right now, Dr. Thompson. I wish I could remember his name to give him credit, because it was just a little innocent article I read, and it had a lot of positive stuff about sauerkraut that said, hey, eat a forkful a day.
Just those natural probiotics.
So, yeah, so I went out and we found sauerkraut, and all I remembered is I hated sauerkraut, and I tried it and I said, this isn't bad.
Yeah.
So I eat sauerkraut basically every day. I do every day when I'm home. I don't take it with me when I travel.
Yeah, right.
And I added bone broth just this past year. Bone broth is apparently really good healing product for you. And I also now I drink that on cleansing day. It kind of makes my cleansing days more enjoyable. And I've been playing around with kombucha a little bit, trying to get the good bugs down there.
Yeah, yeah.
And my favorite Kaizen example of incremental improvements that I just made over this past summer is I found a company called Dry Farm Wines. They make all natural, sugar-free, no additives, wholly organic wines that do not cause a headache. And believe me, I have drank a lot of wine in my life and had a lot of headaches. These don't cause headaches. And so I added them. I got rid of my cheap, nasty boxed wine that I was drinking every night.
Right.
As I was telling the guy, Todd White, who owns Dry Farm Wines, I said, I eat clean. I said, I'm really clean. He says, what do you drink? Boxed wine. He said, that has all the same crap that all that processed food has in it. And apparently the FDA has approved like 71 additives that can be put into wines, but there are no labels.
Yeah.
So I got rid of my boxed wines, and I have now all natural wines. It's the only thing I drink on the wine side, and it really helped. I think it was the last thing to help clean up my diet, if you can consider drinking alcohol clean. And the other thing they do is they test all of it, and they make sure it's 12.5% or less. Okay. And other wines can be much higher. There's no label requirements. So that's just a process of, every day just paying attention and looking on the things that matter to me. And when I see something I can make a small improvement, I try to grab that and bring it in. And, just over time, it really does work.
Matt, I think so many people, and I've run into this in my practice over the years, they get convicted about their health, and then they want to do everything at once. They want to do too much. And that isn't the way life works, because we change for better or for worse, incrementally, as you're talking about. So I think that's a fantastic concept. And it's one that I hope our, attendees to the summit really grab onto, because this is a very simple idea. Just a little bit of change today, a little bit of change, more change tomorrow. And, they'll try to conquer everything, all at once. And you'll just get frustrated if you do that. So anyway, neat concept. Now, you are offering a book as a free gift to our Gut Health Seminar attendees. Could you tell us about the book and the 7 foundations of health that's based on? You talked about that a little bit earlier, I think, on the 7 foundations. So.
Yeah, so thank you. The book is called The Belief Roadmap. It was my daughter and I wrote it together. My daughter, Kayleen, was working with me at Happy Living for the first year and a half before she chose a different career path for motherhood. And she's been successful at motherhood. Grandbaby number 1's already alive and well, and number 2's on the way. So that's worked out great. But so her and I, we decided back in 2015, I decided I wanted to write my book, Turning Inspiration into Action. But we didn't know how to write and publish books, and I decided I wanted to become a book publisher. So I started writing, and Kayleen and I started figuring out how to publish a book And we decided we wanted to repurpose, we decided on the idea of this philosophy book, the book about my philosophies, many of which I had already written for Happy Living. So I had about half the book already written, and we assembled it to learn how to become a publisher and then produce the book. So we organized the book basically talking about what the belief roadmap is. And in a nutshell, it's really just about, it's not the roadmap that you should have or any of the listeners should have. It's the roadmap for me to say, this is what's important to me in my life. And not just what's important to me, like physical fitness, but some structure to it. So I've actually written out philosophies on all these areas that I'll list. And then Kayleen sets up the book with the power of reflection, because in order to know who you are, you really need to spend some time getting to know yourself.
Right.
And reflecting is the way I do it. We talk about priorities, really, getting tough with yourself about what's important to you. If I use the story a lot that I saw a seaplane land on our lake about 2 summers ago when I started writing this book, and I was triggered by it. I was like, wow, that's really cool. I could be fancy guy and go pick up my passengers down at the Charlotte airport and bring them up to my house. And I thought, well, that's not cool. That would really be very snobby and ostentatious. And I'm not even a good driver, so I'd be a disaster in the air. So that's not a priority in my life. So what should I do with it? Stop it, don't think about it, and move on. And at the same time I was writing a book, that's really important to me. So out with the plane, in with the book. And so the importance of priorities really can help move your life along. And then we laid out our 7 foundations of health. And so I wrote my philosophy on the 7 foundations, which I've mentioned: the physical fitness, mental fitness, spiritual fitness, financial fitness, love, adventure, and significance. And then I added to it and wrote about my philosophy of happy living, just in general. And I wrote about my philosophy on why we're here, which the simple answer for me is that we're here to do everything that we possibly can with the gifts that we've been given, which are different for all of us, but all of us have been given gifts. And so job 1 is to do everything you can to become as much as you can with those gifts, and then to help others become everything they can be with the gifts they've been given.
Right.
And so I packaged, these are my philosophies. These are not to inform anybody they should do them this way, but I hope they're, pun on the title, I hope they provide a roadmap for others to build their own roadmaps.
Wow.
And then Kayleen wrapped the book up with the final chapter and teaching the reader, kind of how to use their roadmap and take it on from there. So. Okay,
well, that's great. And again, your free book, the Gut Health Seminar attendees can get that by going to our author resource page, and all of those for all of our various speakers are included there. And you'll have a link and be able to just click on that and go to that resource. Now, people can get in touch with you if they want to get in touch with you at happyliving.com, right?
Happyliving.com, and my email's, I was smart. This is about my 3rd or 4th business that I launched. This time my email is simply matt@happyliving.com.
Made it nice and simple.
So love to hear from anybody.
What are people going to find on your website? What kind of resources are there?
Yeah, so our website is organized as we have a blog tab, blog homepage, which we have over 400 blogs now on all subject matter related to the 7 foundations of health, from not just me as a writer, but my son has joined me and he writes a little bit, but we have a nutritionist, a RN, Stephanie Dunn, who's written lots for us. We call these happy living experts. So Stephanie Dunn in nutrition, Dr. Tom Sult is a functional medicine doc, and he's been a writer for us. James Fitzgerald, who is the first CrossFit champion of the world, is our happy living expert in personalized fitness. Okay. We just brought on a guy named Joe Jacoby, who is the first, him and his partner were the only Americans in Olympic history to win a whitewater gold medal. He was a canoer, and he just joined us as a happy living expert in personalized life coaching. And so we have a lot of information there in our posts. We've created a podcast, Blog Theater. If you do nothing else, folks, check out Blog Theater. You'll love it. It's really great stuff. It's on iTunes as well. And we started a podcast called Something Significant. So we're interviewing people that we say are ordinary people doing extraordinary things in the world and who are doing those components of significance, something they love and something of value to others.
Okay.
And then we have a section on talks and interviews, and we also are a Make-A-Wish partner. So we have a tab on Make-A-Wish. We have lots of videos about the Wish Kids, and we do fundraising every year to support that awesome organization.
Okay, well, you got a lot of neat things there again. I've been talking with Matt Gesper, happyliving.com, so check it out. Check out on our resource page the free gift, the free book. And thank you, Matt, for joining me today and sharing your story and your unique approaches to health. And thanks to everyone for listening. Come back tomorrow for more of Gut Health 3.0.